the involutionary and evolutionary process. This works with our emotions. And we see that as children, they have an overabundance of synapses because they're trying to build all of these connections. As they get older, they build more connections in the prefrontal cortex, and they allow the brain to be more highly more focused on function. So literally you can understand those functions have their own kingdoms, and they have little roads connected to them. So you could see how you would be very argumentative in your understanding, because you didn't have a very clear, coherent connection to those different values, and you would be fighting. And as you progressed more and more on the road of trials, you would begin to you would have experiences that would create the experiences necessary to create those coherences. And then we're just now discovering that about the age of 40, remember 33 to 40, I was on my journey, I was told that about the age of 40, your brain begins to have this massive pruning, and all of those walls get torn down. And we see this in ancient wisdom, where the Jews were in the wilderness for 40 years, and then they were delivered to the promised land. Well, now we know our biology, the walls within our brain begin to come down, because it's much more economical and energy efficient for your brain to have coherent connections in its interaction with the external environment than it is for it to have blocked off, individual kingdoms. We know that when we have these dysfunctional brain frameworks, and we don't have a good connection between the left and right brain, it ends up in fundamentalism, right? There's been many brain studies about that. And so what this involutionary and evolutionary cycle shows is that as we come in and we are born into a body, we move to differentiate ourselves. The energy moves to differentiate itself. It comes into the mother and then finally moves into a body. And now this body moves to differentiate itself from the environment. How does it do that? It does that by identifying the environment. And then as it identifies the environment, we have a lot of, firings going on that are impulse driven, and that moves into domestication. The external writes its rules and says no. And then domestication leads to finally individualization, and that is the emperor. And then you move to internalize. And as you internalize, you move more into the inner, and that moves into the evolutionary stage. That evolutionary stage moves through realization, then actualization, then integration, ultimately unification back on the lover's card, which we'll explore.